something to write with, something to write on, and possibly some little scissors or something.
You know, I love magazines, and when I was younger, I subscribed to many Good Housekeeping, Ladies' Home Journal kind of things. But I haven't been doing that for some time. But I go to our library where they have a wonderful put and take place where you can take magazines you're through with and get others. And I'm always on the lookout for the New Yorker. And but last week I went and got a Good Housekeeping, a magazine called Magnolia, which is a very upscale sort of a Martha Stewart and Beyond thing, and a couple of other things. And it was very interesting. They had, some of them had wonderful ads, you know, and not for drugs or pharmacy things, you know, but for interesting things. So anyway, that was just a lot of fun.
I love that. One of my favorite things about kind of making the shift from pure storytelling into the world of visual arts has been that it has validated all of my hoarding tendencies. All these things that I'm like, well, I like this, but I don't know what for. And now there's a what for. The public library is a fantastic source for weird or interesting old magazines, your basements, your family and friends' basements. I work at an artist-run center that has cultivated, good relationships with our public library and with our community. So I have, scraps from old sewing magazines.
Oh,
and
look at
this
that.
could, this could just be like a background texture if I wanted a page that had more visuals. Or, here's a scrap of somebody's like Bulgarian knitwork, and needlework, embroidery. Men's health magazines are hilarious. The number of pictures of like meat and potatoes. A friend of mine at one of these workshops you were giving just went through a men's health magazine, cut out every picture of a potato, and made a little 8-page zine where every page was just one potato in the dead center of the page, no text, purely visual, a story about potatoes.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I'm new here. I don't know anybody. I was wondering if we could introduce people and, where they're from and everything. Because it seems like a lot of people know each other. And and actually I've worked with your mother, Eli, because I used to do Under the Rainbow stuff during COVID because of Zoom. Mm-hmm. So that's how I found out about these, and I have never done one before.
Oh my goodness, welcome. What a treat. Yes, I believe it or not, I don't know everyone in the room either. I've been away. And now that we're 3 minutes past official start time, I think it's fair game to sort of get things rolling, no? What do you think, Barry?
Let's start out with having people introduce themselves and where they're at, and maybe say a little bit of why they're interested in the workshop.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I would love to know, and to share with everyone in our little virtual space. Hi, Judith. Hi, Lisa. Who you are and what brings you here.
I'll start out. I'm Barry McWilliams. I'm with the Seattle Storytellers Guild. I've been president for a number of years, though currently I'm just on the board, and I'm the Zoom host today.
I'm Ann Brendler. I am the treasurer of the Seattle Storytellers Guild. I've been a member since 2016 or 2015, somewhere around in there. And I used to be an elementary school teacher, primarily first grade. And I used to have my students at Thanksgiving time make a little booklet about what they did each day during Thanksgiving vacation. And the zines seemed to fit right into what I had done. So I'm interested to get going in that again, and also with my grandkids in mind, see what they would like. Yeah.
I'm Pat Peterson, and I'm a storyteller, and right now I'm up in Port Angeles, Washington, and I've been involved with storytelling for a long, long time. The thing that attracted me about the zine aspect is, for one thing, I'm always entertaining possibilities of something different. And one of the ways that I have learned, I'm a very visual person. And so when I was learning a story, I would make a storyboard with very crude stick figures and little objects to help me remember. And so that's, I have these pictures that spoke to me in these magazines, and some of them might even be a story starter. I don't know. But I'm always open for something, new. So appreciate having the opportunity here today.
And I'm Judith Alexander. I'm the acting president of the Seattle Storytellers Guild. And I used to get little bitty booklets from another librarian, a school librarian, and it just was always fascinating to me about that. And I think, like Pat, having something that you can see to help you remember the steps in a story is going to be. But I also wanted to know, what else can you do with these little magazines? Zines, and to connect up with Eli again. So, thank you.
Okay, I'm Joy Ross down here in Tacoma, Washington. And I've been a member of Seattle Storytelling Guild so long, I'm a lifer. But anyway, and I adore storytelling, went all around the world with it, saw many of these people tell wonderful stories. I knew nothing about a Zine, whatever, but Seattle Storytelling expands our memory, our knowledge and such. So here I am.
My name is Margot. I'm in Vallejo, California. Interested in zines. I've seen them in the past, but don't know a lot about them. So just interested in learning something new.
My name's Meredith, and I'm on Vashon Island. And in 1976, I don't know if you can see this, we did this zine on journal writing. We didn't call it a zine. I'm still friends with actually one of the women that put it together. And I love images. During COVID, I started doing altered books. If you don't know what that is, you take an old book and tear it apart and collage from one end to the other and that kind of stuff. So I have files and files of, I use a lot of my own photographs as well. So I like to play with images a whole lot. So I'm really excited. Zine is such a broad topic. It's fascinating to me. I think just about anything that you do can be a zine.
Okay, am I it? I'm Stephanie Smith. I'm a wannabe zinester. I found out about this because I've been on your mailing list for 101 years and just like to lurk. So I'm lurking and I want to learn more about zines. And Elijah, I'm a hoarder too. You can't see them, but behind me have many bookcases full of things that you never know. So maybe you'll know today.
One thing about zines, they don't take up a lot of space. We're glad to have you, Stephanie. Let's see.
Nobody calls me Rashandra unless I'm in trouble. Most people just say Thursday. It's a lot easier. I'm in Federal Way. My parents live in Port Angeles though, so I am up there quite a bit. I think I interact with this and like really like I think everyone has said something where I'm like, ah, yes, I can connect to that. Um, I am a poet. Well, I'm a writer, but I make a lot of my own like chapbooks, which has a lot of overlap with zines. As a historian, I'm really interested in how zines are used to like be subversive and democratize information. I'm teaching a zine class at the or a panel at the Northwest Science Fiction and Fantasy Convention next year, and so I wanted to like refresh because I've done things on my own and like read books, but I've never had like a more formal. I've never done it with other people, and I thought that would be really cool.
Awesome. This is such a great group. I guess that makes it my turn. So I'm Elijah or Eli Janka Martel. My pronouns are they or he. I am a Seattle Storytellers Guild legacy kid. Many of you might know my mother, Naomi Baltuck, who served on the board for many years. I am originally from the Seattle area, and I'm currently living in Newfoundland. So for the folks who came early, we were chit-chatting. My partner and I moved out here in summer of 2021. I was active in zine making before that. I've made little books and comics my whole life. But I took a book arts class at North Seattle College, and we had a zine assignment. This was back in 2018, I want to say. And that was my first, as you were saying, that was my first formal introduction to zine making. Now, as we already know, like what's come up in folks' introductions, zines can be a lot of things. A zine is the house that the content lives in. It's a very broad umbrella term. It can look like a lot of things. It can contain just about anything. It is tricky to know with zero context how to pronounce it if you've only ever seen it on paper. It is zine, rhymes with bean, because the etymology comes from magazine. So there is a very long human history of like distributing pamphlets, of like self-publishing, that's about as old as like access to the printing press. And like creating little leaflets and handing them out because you're a political troublemaker or like a revolutionary or you're trying to organize your community, or you have curious religious ideas that you think need to be broadly shared. Like all these things are sort of like proto-zines. So they're by no means new. But zine culture, as we often conceive of it today, is often sourced to like the early 20th century, like 1930s, 40s, and then really taking off in the second half of the 20th century, associated with different subcultures. Science fiction nerds are some of the earliest folks to have like organized and distributed zines. People who loved Star Trek in the days before the internet, and wanted more than what was on TV, started like putting together like their own articles or like early versions of fan fiction and circulating that by mail. And in the 1980s, 90s, there's like another wave of zine culture that was associated with like different underground music scenes. It's been used for political purposes, as a way to kind of like share ideas, to share stories. And what is appealing and attractive is that there's no gatekeeping. You do not have to phrase things in a way that is palatable to a publisher. You don't have to convince anyone else that this is a good investment or that it will sell. There's no maximum or minimum length, although, you know, you could rack up a bill at Kinko's printing these things. But there's a lot of freedom in the world of zines, and they're not too tricky to make. Folks have asked me, like, well, what if I want to make a zine that is lovingly hand stitched with leather covers, and I'll apply fabric and I'll do this and that and blah, blah, blah. And to me, I'm like, great, I love that for you. I would probably classify that less as a zine and more as an artist book. To me, I associate zines with making like a big edition, which is like a lot of copies. Or just like making multiples, something that's made to be reproduced, often, but not necessarily on a photocopier. That said, there's no rules in zines. There are some people who have really strong feelings about like, oh, if it's too nice, if it's too glossy, if it has too much, if it has a stitched binding or this or that, it's not really a zine. And I don't care. I'm not here to arbitrate that. I think what's exciting is that people want to make stuff and people want to find this way to express themselves and share stories. And during COVID lockdowns, I stopped doing any kind of art for a really long time. What, like personally, whether I am talking on a stage or making something that is visual art, it's all story-based. And the medium is accidental. Like I took up sewing, but it's still about the story that I tell with the thing that I sew. If I'm working in clay, it's about what's the story that I'm telling. And the work feels, here's me showing my like Seattle Storytellers Guild roots. To me, the work feels finished when it's received. And so during COVID lockdowns, I didn't make anything until through the Under the Rainbow programming branch of the Guild, my partner and I decided we were going to put together a queer zine exchange through the mail. So this is like a subsection of the Guild programming that serves like the local LGBTQ plus community. And we hosted a Zoom workshop just like this one, showed folks how to fold a little zine out of one piece of paper. They took pictures or scanned the little zine that they had made. With the help of the local library, we made 10 copies of each, folded them all in our apartment in lockdown over the summer when it was also a heat dome and too smoky from wildfires to go outside. So we were, you know, like our hands were sweating all over the paper. But we were able to get everything finished, put it into envelopes and send everyone by mail copies of their own zine and one copy from everyone else who took the workshop. And that was a way to like connect remotely off screen and give people something like to hold in their hands, and something that was folded by the human hand. So to me, I think that was when it started to crystallize for me that a zine could also be a way to create an intimacy more like what you get when you are in a room with people telling a story to them, versus, you know, what you might get from a podcast. Because it's like, this is the human touch is here, even if you're not in the same physical space with folks. So, let's see. Yeah, before we get started, I know there are folks who are photographers, folks who have worked in other crafts, folks who like collage, and folks who are like, I draw stick figures. I am afraid of visual arts. Please don't make me draw. No one has to draw anything. A zine can be all collage, all text, all drawing, all photos, or some mixture of those things. This is more than anything is like an invitation to start thinking about how the things that you already do and love in your own lives might be adapted to fit into this way of sharing. And you know, the last thing is like, for the folks here who are storytellers, you know, I know that like in our family, we still have like cassette tapes with my mom's stories on them, and then CDs with my mom's stories on them. And it's like, we never got to like kind of like put it on iTunes or Spotify. Like, we didn't quite take it to there. But when I have a merch table on behalf of, you know, my arts festival or like the artist run center where I work, I have started making and photocopying little zines that are like about us or something fun and silly, or, you know, just like a little comic or written down fun facts that I learned at an event that we hosted, and having those on our table, either as something more fun than a business card, or something to sell for $1 or $2. So if there's somebody who wants to support, but maybe isn't there to throw around a lot of cash, or doesn't want to commit to like something as big as a bag or t-shirt, this has been a really lovely way to, you know, make that connection with somebody who wants to stay connected to you or support you in some way. Before we scoot along, questions, comments, concerns? Yes. Joy?
Show me one of your zines, please. Or, you know,
Yes.
I mean, a real, you know, completed one, just to get something in the brain here.
Absolutely.
I'm looking on my phone at different examples of zines, but boy, they are complicated compared to what's going to happen at this house. Just saying.
I'm so happy that you asked. I could not have asked for a better segue. What I have in front of me, just off screen, the audience plant, is some zines from my collection. So everyone ahead of time hopefully got a handout, 2 handouts. You do not have to have those printed. If you do, fabulous. If not, don't worry about it. The guide to zine structures walks through 4 common like sizes and shapes of zines. The first one, which is in many ways the easiest, is a zine made out of a half piece of paper. Oh yes, Barry's got it blurred out. But Barry has a printed copy. So zines made of half a piece of paper. It's 1 sheet of printer size paper folded in half. It is in some ways the easiest because there's not a lot of complicated folding. I have my zine, which won the 2020 Washington State Zine Contest, is called Love Letter to Harry Allen. and it's about a historical, like someone who today probably would have identified as a transgender man, but who at that time was a sensational character as like a woman in man's clothing who looks so handsome and breaks the heart of young ladies and bites police officers and, you know, kind of like it's like out there causing trouble. But it's a collage zine out of historical newspapers. A lot of it is writing, but it has this like visual element by printing like black on white or white on black, or kind of mixing sections of writing with photos and visual elements down the side. So I love a collage aesthetic. This zine is free online, but it's not a very good scan. So I have a better scan, which I will send to Barry if this is something that send to Barry to send to you after, if this is something that you would like to read and have a look at. My aesthetic is very collage based. Here's another one that I did at a zine that I made. It's collected sketch and diary work from an artist residency that I did this past fall in a town that was built by the Fishermen's Protective Union here in Newfoundland. So it's like little sketches and cartoons with just kind of like notes about my day to day. And there's me drawing out and about in the cold weather because it was around this time of year. And so this is one that mixes drawing and writing. And it's not as linear. Like the content of this and the content of this, neither of them would work to be read aloud, because they kind of intermingle visual elements and the text of the story. And here's a zine not by me, from my collection. It's called What is a Ghost by Eliza Fernand. And I got this in a zine exchange that I signed up for in the mail. And so it's mostly text, and it has some pages that have these little like photo collages. But it's this kind of like stream of consciousness that goes back and forth between kind of musing, like, what is a ghost? Maybe a ghost is a spirit or specter, a wandering soul that's left its earthly body and has found a new form, hiding beneath a white sheet. I think that ghosts live inside of us. I'm haunted by several ghosts, past versions of me, things I've done, things that have been done to me. And it goes back and forth between this kind of like running through like this question, what is a ghost? And then like flashbacks to personal stories. And a lot of it is about like grief and hardship and like relationships to like colonialism and COVID. And that one, like to me, like that could also, that feels like a story that could be audio or verbal that has been contained in a little booklet form and happens to have these beautiful like art pieces interspersed with the text. Here's another one by Catherine Durst, which is Alone in My Own Body. And Catherine is an illustrator and a printmaker. And so there is text, and the text tells its own story. The illustrations add to it. It's like the text is like a poem, but it's slowed down by these illustrations, which are like life drawings. And then there are some pages that are only art. And then, you know, this is one that was made by my sibling and their partner, Beatrice and Elaine Alder, Law of Salvage. They made this also during an artist residency, and it's a lot of, it's photographs of their artwork and then text giving context. So this is about kind of like queer histories of New Bedford, like real and imagined LGBTQ ancestors. And it kind of, there are pages that are just art. There are pages that kind of mimic the style of old, like printed sheets that would be papered around as a way to share news. And then, you know, there are like, there's creative writing, like letters, that, or like quotes or histories. So this one has more of an anthology feel, where it's all these different little pieces of creative work interspersed with each other. Here's another one that I got in a zine exchange. It's just called Acupuncture. And this is a very like, there's like illustration, and then it's like lists of like yin, night, water, cold, slow, calm, quiet, moon, winter, intuition. And it's like mostly diagrams, and it's very sparse in terms of what the writing is. One thing that is maybe a cautionary tale, I always like to credit people whose work I love and want to share. And here's the signature. I can't read it. It might say Julia, but if I ever wanted to buy another copy of this, or if I shared it with someone who wanted to buy a copy, I wouldn't know where to look for it or how to get in touch with the artist who created this. Let's see. Okay, how's that? Can you hear me okay? Fabulous. Thank you for your patience. I got the little warning beep boop sound of my fancy no cord headphones dying. So here we are. Something else that you'll notice about these two is that they are in color. So I usually work in black and white just because the photocopying adds up, and for selling zines or like giving zines away for free, it's a very minimal profit margin. So I usually work in black and white. If there's maybe one or two little details that I want in color, often I will just like hand color them with a marker on every single individual copy rather than paying for color printing. But the last half-size piece of paper is another anthology. It's a comics anthology for a music festival where I was like a comics artist in residence. So this is Lanya Vanya Deluxe Edition. And this whole series is called I Don't Do Comics. So it's encouraging people who are like, well, I don't really do comics. I only draw stick figures, to just be brave and send something in. That's, you know, and it's just people's little drawings. This is Dad Band. Or, you know, here's some little birds. It was music themed. And so every page is a different person's artwork. Here's a comic that I put together. It's sort of like a loose form comic. It's not in panels. It's again, that kind of like sketch diary style. But the way that they have created a color booklet without paying for color printing is by using pink paper and photocopying in black and white on pink paper. So that can be a good strategy if you don't want to like pay 4 times as much for color photocopies versus black and white. So what I like about the half sheet of paper zine is that it is the least finicky in terms of chopping and folding. This is the size that a piece of paper comes out of the printer in. And I have overuse conditions in my hands and wrists and fingers. So I will often have like achy joints, and not have as great manual dexterity with my hands and wrists. So this is nice for me because, it's easier. You just print it and fold it. One thing to be aware of if you're working in this is like pagination. So knowing what goes on the front and back and where's up and down. And if you're printing double-sided, are you reversing on the short side or the long side? And, now they have it. This is incredible to me because I'm used to having to like take all of the paper out of the tray, print one side, flip it manually in the tray, figure out where it goes and scan the other side. Now you can go to like the FedEx and say, I want to print these booklets. It's ready to go. And they will print it for you and the machine will staple it. To me, this is unthinkable. They can do it, but before you take it to the shop and you print 25 or 50 copies, you want to make sure that everything is right side up and that the order of the pages is right. And the way that I do that is very old school. I take a bunch of pieces of paper, fold them, and I write 1, 2, 3, 4, so that then when I open them back up, I know what needs to be front and back of what. And that's like, in visual art or printing terms, I would call that making a mock-up. So it's just like a test version before putting a bunch of work into something and then being like, it's wrong. So yes, Barry.
One thing I appreciate about your little thing is that you listed the numbering on the pages in your examples and stuff. I used to do booklets and stuff, multiple pages for church Bible school things and that sort of thing. And boy, I tell you, trying to get those pages in the right order before you print it all up is always a challenge. And it's really helpful, like to do the mock-up, but also it's nice the way you labeled it. I will say I've been doing a lot of this stuff a long time. I never know they were zines, but this is an example of a bulletin for a Thanksgiving service at our church. And I used to do stories as St. Nicholas at Christmas time, and I'd always have handouts. And you notice I folded it lengthwise rather than the other way. But real nice. I've got some of these on my website, and if people go to my Christmas pages, they can click on these and print them out themselves and so on. There's all sorts of uses for these things, especially the church situation. I used to do church bulletins every Sunday with my own little artwork on the front cover and stuff. And I never called them zines, though, but that's what they were.
And Barry, did you mail out or forward all the handouts to everyone? I think Thursday didn't get anything.
Yeah, I'll send it to. You might have registered after I sent it out. I'll send it to you right away.
And Eli, this one I printed, and I know that that's the one that creates a little what this guy called a puka book. Would it be helpful if we made that now?
You are anticipating.
Segue.
Yeah, another audience.
Thank
plan.
you.
Yes, so I'm hearing a couple of folks didn't get the email. We will definitely resend those. You do not need to have the handouts in front of you to get the learning done. Let me show you folks a couple more examples. Yes,
Excuse me,
Barry.
Eli, for a second. If you did get the handouts, could you raise your hand so I know?
I'm seeing Thursday, Stephanie, and Joy are the folks that I know haven't got them. I also, if it's easier, I can just like once we get to the hands-on section and get folks situated, I can also get them as a Google Drive link that I can just drop into the chat. So folks will be able to download it directly if that's easier. Does that sound okay? Excellent. So the advantages of working in the size of zine, less folding, and it feels book-like. So it has kind of like the gravitas of a book or closer to, and you can work bigger. If you have a lot of text or bigger images, it can be nice to have it on half a sheet of paper. Now, the next size down is a quarter size. So that is zines that are printed on a regular size of paper, chopped in half, and then folded in half again. So you have the half size and then you have the quarter size. Now this is it still feels very book-like, but it's about the size of a jeans pocket. It feels portable, it feels more intimate, and it's a little bit cheaper because you're only doing half the number of pages. So this is a piece that I have like performed as sort of like a spoken prose poem. It's called Soft, and it's about like relearning how to cry in my late 20s after not being able to for a really long time. So it's a standalone story. And to have it work in zine format, again, because I love a collage, I have this sort of typewriter font, and I've taken this same black and white image of flowers and chopped it up and put that in the background in different patterns with black text. And like, here's a timeline of all of the times that I cried over the course of a year and a half, as this was like my experience. And then, you know, on the back here, I have my social media handle so that if someone finds this in a library or an archive in 5 years, or is traded a copy, or gets a copy, likes it, and wishes they could share it, they'll know how to find it again. Yes, questions?
So I understand that you got like your sheet and you fold it and then cut it. How do you get when you go to print it, how do you format that? Because that seems like a logistical nightmare.
Yes. So that is where making mock-ups comes in. Usually, for something like this, I would not fully chop it until I'd already made photocopies. So what I would do is, here's another one of my zines. I would format the sheets like this, knowing that this middle line is up, like having made a mock-up and being able to say, okay, here's page 1, here's page 2, here's what's on the front, here's what's on the back, photocopy it flat, and then only do it once the first time, chop up that photocopy, fold that photocopy, make sure I put it together right, and then if it's good, then make another 50. And that's the same for the next thing we're going to look at, which is the zines out of one piece of paper. Usually I might fold that one before I photocopy it. I will not usually cut it until it's already a photocopy. I tend to not cut the originals. But also I like to do a lot of collage and layers, and I have glue and tape and stuff. So it would be hard to fold that versus once it's flat and like one image. Here's another one that I've made that is like a similar vein, where it's like I have read it aloud as kind of like a poetry adjacent performance. It's called Queers Playing D&D, like Dungeons and Dragons at the End of the World. And it's sort of like an apocalypse story. So it's just the text. To bring that kind of like art element, it's white text on black instead of black on white. And I just have these kind of blurry photocopies from a story about forest fires that I've found in magazines. And it's kind of distorted. Like you can't really clearly see what the images are, but that's not the goal because the writing is what's important. It just provides like some contrast and some texture. Here's another one that's about risograph printing. And this is by Hazel May Eckert of Nothing New Projects. And it's just text. It's just informative. She runs a studio, like a risograph printing studio, which is like sustainable soy-based ink that gives you these neon colors. Oh, okay, there are little diagrams in it, but this is just to show, you know, you can do a lot with just text. It doesn't have to be visuals or artsy. And here's a thicker one. A lot of mine are pretty short, pretty thin. But this is Jose Gonzalez Blackout. And the ratio of like each page is one little sentence paired with one or two drawings. All right. Now, I know what everyone's been waiting for, and I'm not going to give it to you just yet. We're going to skip ahead in the order on the handout sheet and just really quickly look at a couple of the little accordion zines. So this is another one that is a little trickier to figure out, to plan for. It requires either being mathematically minded or willing to mess around and make a lot of mistakes until you get something that works. So this is an accordion fold. And here's one that I made, which is called 31 Reasons Not to Make a Zine. So I can fit 4 of these on a sheet of paper. I chop them at a paper cutter, either at like a Kinko's FedEx or, you know, working in an office type environment, because I don't have that at home. You could do it with scissors or like a ruler and an X-Acto knife, but how nice if you don't have to. And then the inside is just 31 reasons not to make a zine, which when I was like procrastinating. And they're all things like too tired, no one will read it, don't have time, lost first draft, unanswered emails, ran out of staples, haven't done laundry, too sad, got a paper cut, imminent collapse of human civilization. And because I am not mathematically minded, I have just like designed it in such a way that it doesn't matter where the folds are. So when I was testing it and making a mock-up, I was like, okay, well, I can fold this back and forth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times to get sort of a square. And so I just was like, okay, I will fold this 5 times. And I didn't have to worry about like measuring every single time. And because I don't really have pages on the inside, I also didn't have to worry about that. Another example of an accordion zine is An Abstract Interpretation of the Creative Mind by Jasper Martinez. And then here's the inside. And it, as you see, is abstract. So, options that are available to you. Now, the moment everyone has been waiting for, I have some one piece of paper zines. Here is the first one that I ever made because I got into this through comics. It's called Fortunes, and it's about getting my fortune told when I was working in Eastern Turkey. And so it is very, like, it feels like a comic, but instead of being broken up into little boxes, it's broken up by pages. And so it's like, you know, you turn the cup of coffee upside down and let the coffee grounds settle. And then the fortune teller, like, will come and read your future in the coffee grounds. And so it's just like a quiet little story. You could do one thing on every page, or you could design it as like a 2-page spread, which is what I have done here because I wanted the bigger illustrations and sort of the slower flow of the story. Here's another little personal story. It's like, it's not quite a story. It's not something I would get up on stage and tell. It's more like if I were on Twitter, or X, as it's now called, which I'm not, and I enjoy not being on Twitter, but it's kind of these little short jokes or vignettes or things that aren't quite a full story, just a little taste of your narrative voice. So when I was in quarantine, I got obsessed with like fake nails, like really decorative long fake nails. And so it's like, I didn't grow up with these things. Long nails make me feel elegant and slightly dangerous, like a mage or a necromancer. But there's a learning curve. Simple tasks become challenging. There's an eyelash in my eye. And it's like, how do you get it out? Babe, can you help me open this caffeinated bubble water? My husband has to help me open cans. But when he's asleep and I don't want to bother him, I figure out how to do it with a spoon. And that's the end. Just a couple of sentences broken up with little silly drawings. Here's one that my director at work made. That's Ash Draws Animals Poorly from Memory. And this is one of the ones that we share at our table when we go to events. So we just said this whole list of animals like frog, moose, spider. And our director tried to draw them with a marker. And we're all grown people who work in the visual arts. But it's just about kind of loosening up and having fun. And all of these things that are just like little images start to feel narrative when you turn the pages through them. Here's one by Andrew Testa, who is a printmaker here in Newfoundland. Says, a reminder for myself to learn to be here, to be present. And this is typed up, printed out, cut out with scissors, and then stuck back on over collaged pictures. This is travel down the road, the gravel, now mud and grass, up onto the boulder. Try to move slow, think slow, slower still. Now stop. Sit and wait, look and listen. As it is not easy to be as if never here. It's okay to be noticed, but only then will you allow your surroundings to return to their ways, to know how the robin may act when their alarm calls return to song, when you become slow enough to notice and be unnoticed, when looking and listening, becoming seeing and hearing. But until then, remember, this task is difficult, as your body is hard to be made still, and your mind is hard to ease. And it is always hard to be waiting. And he has his name and the year that he made it, Andrew Testa 2021. And when you open up this zine, there is a little secret on the inside. It's a diagram of how to fold it. So if you encounter this as a flat piece of paper, you would also have the instructions for how to put this together. Now, I have talked quite a bit, and some of you have been waiting very patiently with your craft supplies in hand. I would love to share with you how to make a zine out of one piece of paper. If you have the printout of how to table at a zine fest, you are welcome to use that because it is designed to be folded as one piece of paper. If you have a blank sheet of printer paper, we can use that as well. Here's my blank piece of paper. Fabulous. So the first thing that we're going to do is fold this piece of paper. We will be folding it both hot dog and hamburger style, doesn't matter which. So folding it in half. My goodness. I used to be an English language teacher, but you wouldn't necessarily know it. Now, the crisper you can get these folds, the easier time you'll have if you've ever done origami or any kind of paper crafts. The sharper your folds, the easier a time you'll have putting it all together. And this is the only specialized tool that I sometimes recommend for zine making, especially if, you know, like me, you have kind of like soreness or overuse in your hands or fingers. It's one of these. It's called a bone folder. So these are usually between $6 and $12 online or at art supply stores. You can get them made out of bone, made out of plastic or like Teflon. And this is just, sometimes sewing supply stores sell them as well. But it's just something that you can like run along the crease of the paper to help you get a really crisp, sharp fold. The back of a spoon also works. The edge of a pair of scissors also works. Like a ruler will also work, just as long as it's not a really sharp edge that will tear your paper. One piece of paper zines are nice because you don't need staples, but they do require a little more folding. So if I wanted to make 50 or 100 of these, I would want to save my fingers and especially my fingernails. And so it is useful to have these. Yeah, Barry is saying fabric stores have them. A lot of people will like use them to flatten seams on things as well, or like press the corners. I don't sew very well, but it's like I've seen them there. All right, so we're going to open it back up. Whichever way you folded it, we're going to fold it now the opposite way. So I folded it hamburger style, and now I'm folding it hot dog style. Right. So I have this piece of paper folded into 4 sections. Now what I'm going to do, holding it sideways, long ways, I'm going to bring this outside edge to the middle fold, like this. And when that's done, I'll do the same on the other side. So I'll also bring the other outside edge right into the middle here, like this. Now, when I open this up, I have 8 little sections that are all the same size. Everybody good? Feeling good? Right. Shall we? Oh my goodness, Pat, that's so cute. It popped up as like a little thought bubble. Your thumbs up. That is wonderful. Never seen that before, and I love it. Now, what I'm going to do, holding it vertical, I'm going to fold it in half again along this middle fold. And with my pair of scissors, I'm going to cut from this folded edge just to the first crease. So when I open it up, I'll have this little frog mouth right through the middle of my paper. Good, excellent. Excellent. If you don't have scissors handy, you can also tear it along this crease. And the sharper the crease, the easier it is to do without scissors. Perfect, ideal. Now we have this frog mouth in the middle of our piece of paper. I'm holding it sideways again, long ways. And I'm just going to let it fold the way it wants to fold and fold down in half like this. And now what that creates for me is this little diamond in the middle of the paper. Excellent. Now, what I'm going to do is pinching it right here at the crease. I'm going to bring it in to make a T. Good. So just those past few steps, I'm going to run it through again. We've cut this frog mouth in the middle of our paper. I'm going to let it fold the way that it wants to create this diamond. And then pinching at the edges here, bring it in to make a T. Sometimes with this one, there's a little bit of a resistance because it wants to open up, but I'm in charge here. I'm the captain. I'm the boss of this piece of paper. Perfect. And now, once you've got it in this T shape, if you flatten it out, and sometimes you have to muscle it a little bit, you can make it into a little book. So I'm taking it from this T shape and just smushing it down into a book. How are we doing? Yes. Good. Excellent. See, Margot has a book. Judith has a book. Anne has a book. Stephanie has a book. Wonderful. Oh, yes. Yes. Now, one thing you'll notice is that the pages aren't perfectly even. They don't all line up. It's a little bit lumpy. And that's because the paper has a thickness. So the thickness of the paper means that it's not going to be a perfectly flat fold. If you did this with tissue paper, you could get a little closer. But what's nice about zines is that they are designed to be a little bit imperfect. And hopefully having a slightly uneven edge doesn't take away from anyone's enjoyment. I am gonna, take this bone folder and just press it a little flatter. And really solidify the folds that I do have. But, here's my mock-up. And if I wanted to, let's see, I threw zines everywhere and lost my writing utensil. That's all right. There we go. If I wanted to then turn this into a mock-up or make a photocopy, what I can do is number these pages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That way, if I want to make a photocopy of this, or if I want to make, if I know I want to make a zine out of one piece of paper and I don't want to cut it, I just want to put it through the photocopier, like design it all, make my photocopies, and then cut the photocopies. I know where everything should go. Now, one thing that you'll notice is that it can be folded so that all kinds of different pages are the first page, and that's fine. It doesn't really matter so long as it goes in the right order, like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you don't end up with your cover right next to page 4 and then page 2 and then page 7. So as long as it's in sequence, any page can really be the cover page. And with things that are right side up or upside down, the middle spine of this is up in both directions. So on these pages, the middle is the top. On these pages, the middle is the top. So that way, everything will face the same direction when it's folded. Right. Now, if you have collage materials or would like to just doodle some patterns or start drawing or making notes, planning a zine, I absolutely invite you to do so. I'm here to like troubleshoot, answer questions. We can keep chatting as folks work. If you'd like to see the entire folding process again, I am also like very happy to go through it. Sometimes it takes a couple of times for something new like this to really solidify into my brain. I had to do a run of 50 copies before I was like, I'll never forget this again. Questions, comments, concerns? Yes. Joy? Oh, sorry, you are on mute. Okay, there you go.
I have a fold, so I don't get individual 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 to 8 pages. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. See, here's a fold that's not.
Okay.
So something, go ahead. We'll refold it.
Right. It might have been the part where it's once it's in 4 pages, folding it in from the outside to the middle section.
Right.
But I'm also happy to just do the whole thing again on camera, and that might be easier than troubleshooting over Zoom.
Exactly.
And if you already have it cemented in your brain, I totally invite you to not pay attention.
Can I offer a suggestion?
Yes.
If you're looking in gallery view, you might want to switch to speaker view. You can see what he's doing better.
Yes, so if you would like a bigger view of me as I fold up in the, I think, right-hand corner of your screen, there's a little white thing that says view, a little white label. And you can switch between gallery view, which shows you everybody's faces, and speaker view, which will highlight me. So with my fresh piece of paper, step 1 is to fold it in half. Now I'm going to unfold it, fold it in half again the other way. Excellent. So I have 4 equal parts. Now I'm going to take the outside edge and bring it to this middle line. And then I'm going to do the same on this other side. I'm going to bring the outside edge to this middle line here, like this. I'm trying to angle it into the light so you can see I have 8 equal size pieces of paper, or pieces of paper. The paper is divided into 8 equal parts. Now, this middle, holding it so it's tall, I'm going to fold it again on this halfway fold that I've already done. And I'm going to take my scissors or tear along this center line right down to the first fold. From the folded edge to this middle crease right here. And sometimes I like to cut just past the line because I find it makes the folding a little easier than if it's precisely on the fold. So I have like these 2 little legs from the folded edge. Excellent. Good. I see Pat's got it, Judith's got it, Joy's got it. Fabulous. Excellent. So when I open it back up, holding it long ways, I've got this little frog mouth in the middle of the paper right here. And I'm going to let it fold back in half like this. So I've got this diamond in the middle of the paper. So I'm going from this frog mouth to the diamond. Yes, there you go, Pat. Well done. Excellent. Excellent. Yes. So I'm holding it kind of here at the creases to make it pinch together and create this T shape. And you can see these ends kind of want to get away from me. They don't really want to pinch together along the crease. And you can just muscle them in. So that what I have is this looking straight on. I just have like a T. And here's the side view. It's sort of a little like windmill paddle kind of thing. And then I'm trying to make this bit like be closed the full length of it. Yes. Excellent. And once it's in this shape, I can take it from the T, smush it flat. And when I have it flat like this, smush it in half again. And that's what gives me this little book shape. So going back to the part where it gets a little trickier, I have this frog mouth. It's like letting it close. So it's folded in half with this big hole in the middle. How are we doing? For the folks who are folding again, how are we doing? Yes, I see you've got it, Pat. Good. All right. Now, pinching at the corners of this diamond here, I'm smushing it together like this. And the way that I'm controlling this is by like kind of holding it at the corners of this hole and just forcing the whole spine together into a T shape so that it's really pressed in there. And once I have this T shape, I can just start flattening it down into the book.
I think if maybe I was understanding the question earlier,
Yes.
it was that we have this sort of internal bit, like where we folded, that's still, you know what I mean? So this is still one page, but there's a inner bit, and is that correct?
Oh, yeah, thank you. My spatial reasoning skills over Zoom are what they are. So yes, it's okay to be able to see the inside of the pages. I will often just leave those empty. Let's see. So on this example zine, you know, if you peel them apart, there are holes in there. But it's like once someone who's reading sees that there's nothing in it, it's like they kind of know to skip over it. Barry, do you have a question?
No, just a comment. I took a glue stick and just stuck a little bit in the inside corners of those blank parts so that the pages would hold together and they wouldn't open up to that blank part. Just a little bit of glue stick in the corners of the blank inside part and stuck them together. It's one way you could handle that problem.
Yeah, wonderful. That's a little bit of glue or a little piece of double-sided tape also, if you want to be very sure that it kind of stays closed where it's supposed to be closed. All right. Who's got questions? Judith, did I see that you had a question?
I was going to see if you could cut that to get more pages, but use that inside. But I could see if you cut too far, you're just going to have it fall into an accordion or something. So it's probably not a good idea. Gluing is probably better.
I will say you can make a zine that is this size with more pages. You would just need to have a stapler. So if you wanted a zine that's this size and you don't mind having to use staples, bye, Anne. Thank you so much. It would be the same process as a half-page zine or a quarter-page zine. You would just, finish cutting so that every 2 pages was a separate section. So it would be one piece of paper cut into 4, and then these would be your spreads.
Yeah.
And you would get, double the number of pages because there's nothing on the inside. It would just mean you would want access to a stapler. And this actually, if you're making your copies at the Kinko's or the FedEx, you will want to have a long arm stapler because like a traditional stapler it doesn't reach all the way to the middle of the paper. There are special staplers that are like extra long, industrial looking. They'll usually run like $25 to $45 at the office supply store, depending on how nice they are, or most copy shops have them. This is one that I got at the Daiso, the Japanese dollar store. And what's nice about this is that it actually, like, the arm folds out so that it doesn't have to reach all the way to the middle. Like, you can still put staples in the middle of a piece of paper, but it's harder to be precise with them if you're kind of going in sideways and guessing whether they're going to land on a fold. So like this cost a couple of bucks rather than like $40. But if I were working in a really high volume, I would probably rather have just like a long arm stapler. But, you know, here's 3 little teeny tiny staples right down the middle. And this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 15, 16 pages, because there's nothing hidden in the middle. So there's pros and cons to each. And on the Zine Structures handout, one of the things that it talks about is like how many pages. I, again, just to be thrifty and save on costs, I like to not have waste. So if I am making one of these and every half of a piece of paper is 1, 2, 3, 4 pages, one whole piece of paper is 8 pages. So I designed this as an 8-page zine. And like the inside cover, I left blank because I didn't have that much text and I didn't want to invent more to make a story longer than it had to be. But when I designed this one, it's like 12 pages, which is 1.5 pieces of paper. So that means that if I were to just photocopy one of these, I would have half a piece of paper that's waste every time. And it costs the same to do a front and back photocopy if you use all of it or if you only use half. So that's just something to think about, is like, do you want, it can be interesting to try and tell a story, a little story or a vignette in only 8 pages. Or, you know, for the little fortune telling zine, less, because I have my front cover and then like a 2-page spread. So it's really a cover and 3 pages, essentially. And that's where the use of images does some of the heavy lifting. So, you know, one challenge that I have as an artist, as a storyteller, is being excited about everything, wanting to try everything. And it's easy for me to get too far ahead of myself and then get overwhelmed and not be able to finish or not even start because a project feels like in my head it's already gotten too big. And I'm like, well, I don't have time for that. I lead a busy life. And making a little 8-page zine is one way that I have found to keep creating. And maybe that's a jumping off point for what becomes a larger story or what becomes a little series of short vignettes. Now, Barry also held up, this is also in the handout, which if you don't have it, you will receive it. So my partner and I have taught zine workshops together, and we put together a little list of zine ideas. It's like what goes in a zine, and just like again, a reminder that the zine is the house that the content lives in, and the content can be anything. So it can be collage. If you are working from a magazine and you find a photo that you love, but it's too big to fit on the size that you want, you can either scan it and print it again smaller, or there are photocopy settings on the copier where you can like copy it at 25% of the size and then cut out your photocopy of the too big image and then paste that into the zine and photocopy the zine. I like to work in black and white, so I don't use like crayons or markers. I use Sharpies and pens. And sometimes I'll, like for the ones where the text is like computer font, I'll type that up, print that out, cut out all the little pieces of text, tape or glue that into the zine, and then make a photocopy of that. So I like to work very traditional. If you're a person who's comfortable doing digital editing, you can also put it together in like Photoshop or Paint or whatever in a way that mimics traditional collage or doesn't. Just depending on what you like. I know people who make their zines in Microsoft Word, which is amazing to me because to me that's like much harder. But if it's almost all text, they'll like put it horizontal and just write one side of it at a time, and print it up as is essentially. And maybe they'll do like a collage or a design for the cover. But there's a lot of, so there are people who handwrite their whole zine. Like something like this is all handwritten, all hand drawn. Just pulled up a piece of paper and like, here's another one. I did a lot of, someone gifted me a New York Times subscription for a year, and they have this little game called Spelling Bee where they'll give you like 9 letters and you have to make as many words as you can. And if you get every single possible word, it gives you a little star and it's like, you're a queen bee. So, and this is like just Sharpie writing on a little piece of paper. It says, at home we play Spelling Bee, in the morning over coffee or at night to wind down. Here are some of the words that stumped us recently. Acacia, thou, flail, hath, mentee, ciabatta. So it's like this would be like the 1 or 2 words that we couldn't get after staring and staring. Bot, gelée, tomtit, Panama, financial, Rani. It's harder than it looks. And that's the whole thing. And it's just drawn with Sharpie or written with Sharpie. You know, here's another one that I made in a workshop with just ballpoint pen on paper. And it says, things I can't stop saying because I've become a caricature of myself. And it's just a list of all these little verbal tics that I have with speech bubbles drawn around them. So it's like, I mean, so it goes. What am I doing? What am I doing with my life? Okay, so any answer is fine. What a life. This is an offering, not an ask. Questions, comments, concerns, which you might have heard me say today. So, you know, it's doesn't have to be too complicated. But ultimately, like, this is a little piece of who I am as a person that can be easily copied and reproduced and shared. And like, you know, here's like a crumb of my soul that I can share in the world with someone who might appreciate it. Gary?
One thing I do a lot is I'll get a graphic and you can scan it in if you've got a scanner and change the size, you know, save it as a file, and then you can change the size of it before you print it out to fit your space. So if you got a picture that's a little bit too big or too small, you just scan it in and grab the corner and adjust the size. We can do an awful lot nowadays with our technology on our home computers.
Yes. Another technology trick real quick. Sorry, I see the hand. I got you. Another technology trick is like if I'm working with a magazine, um, you know, Martha Stewart, Living Grateful, and I want to know if this is going to look good as a photocopy, I will use my cell phone camera. Here where it says photo, I will sometimes use like the little like black and white filter to see before I cut this up if it will look good as a photocopy. So I might take a picture of it, and then when I click edit, I can play with these settings to turn it into black and white, and that will kind of show me, will it look good if I cut it out and photocopy it. So that's another little trick that I sometimes use. Yes, questions?
It's not a question. I just wondered if I could show something.
Yeah, please.
So we hadn't had a poetry track at the Northwest Science Fiction and Fantasy Convention for a while, and so we were bringing it back, and I knew that we would have a lot of folks who were like, wait, there's nerd poetry. So I put together a thing that we could hand out for free, which meant that, like, because it was free, I went and I asked poets, can I use your work? And it was not copyrighted because I'm not selling it. I am almost aphantasic. I don't visualize. So a lot of like people were talking about like I do pictures and I'm like, oh no, I don't know how to do that. So what I did was I run the gamers club at my school. I run every club at my school. But that means I DM a D&D campaign for 13-year-olds. And so my brother drew the world's chonkiest kobold as an NPC. And so I used that as the cover. And then because I'm not visual, because I go to a lot of conventions, I have a lot of stickers. And so I just put stickers on like along the side or whatever I faked being visual because I myself am not, and I have like washi tape. And then talking about pagination, I realized I was going to have some empty pages because I didn't know what I was doing. But luckily, because this was going for a workshop, I just told the panels, well, this is where your words go. And so I was giving them space to write their own stuff. And then at the back, I included like, here's places you can submit and how and whatnot. And like some things to remember, because I was trying to demystify both poetry and like genre poetry, which is its own like thing. Some of them I did staple. After about 30, I was like, it's fine. They won't lose the pieces. But this is one of those just half sheet ones. And so I don't know if anyone else ever is like, I don't have visuals, but other people do, and you can stick them on things. I did not pay for this because I mean, definitely didn't just go to my school after hours and use their color copy machine because that would be unethical, probably. So that's how I got around that. But I could have done this, I know, in black and white and been fine. I just thought it would be fancy.
That's awesome. Yeah, and actually that's a fantastic point. If you're like, oh, I want to put a pattern in the background, but I don't have any magazines. I'm not a photographer. Stickers are awesome. Tape is awesome. Even something like painter's tape can make an interesting texture, and you can like make a pattern by like taping it in like a crisscross, or you know, the ripped edges can like make interesting shapes, especially once it's in black and white and it's just like lighter or darker. Yeah, stickers, as you said. I made like a limited edition zine about learning to do embroidery as a grown man. And just kind of like, does this make me feel connected to, you know, to my family, to the past? And for the visuals for that, I like put onto a scanner different textures of fabric or like bits of stitching, and then chopped those up and as kind of like an abstract collage. A lot of the visuals that I do, like as in this one, are abstract. It's just to kind of have some different lights and darks and patterns behind the words. But this could also just exist as like a white page with words on it in black, and it wouldn't really change the story. It's just for fun. Yeah, and also with magazines, you know, sometimes I'll like find a picture of something, like an object that's related, like find a picture of a potato, or okay, bye Judith, thank you so much. Yeah, if folks have to head out, that's absolutely okay. I'm available to hang around and chat and answer any questions. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you so much to the Guild for having me. What a delight it has been. Yeah, what a pleasure. And if you have to duck out, feel free. Last thoughts about collage. Sometimes I'll just get something like that picture of a giant turkey and like blow it up so big that you can't tell what it is. It's just an interesting pattern in black and white that goes behind, rather than looking for, I want a picture of a turkey to go with my story about a turkey. So that's one way to make it visual. Sorry, Stephanie, did you have a question or a comment?
Sorry, yeah, I kind of have to go too, but I really wanted to know if there's other workshops like this that could be in more detail, and not so much about the format, but like how to do zines. Because this is really interesting to me. And I have one other thing to share too. You were talking about backgrounds. Well, I collect weird things. And one of the stuff that you get when you're, stuff is like things in different languages. Like there's this whole big, I don't know if you can read this, or it's too caca, from the Healthcare State Authority. And it says, okay, in all these different languages, you can find this information. But to me, the patterns of some of these things are like, they're so interesting. I have no idea what even language this is. So one of the things I've done, just playing around, is just like photocopy this and then I blow it up. And then I've got this really interesting, cool kind of background of stuff which is great because I don't even know what this stuff means. So basically it just becomes this pattern, And so I collect those things because they're kind of cool to look at. But at any rate, if there's some way you can get in touch, if you can send emails to us or me or whatever about more of this, kind of how to do this stuff, not so much format, I would be very, very, very grateful.
Yeah, that's, if I can ask a quick follow-up question. When you say how to do this stuff, is it more like the visual parts, like collage and putting it together, or is it
I've been writing down all these cool ideas and things that you guys have scenes about. I'm like, well, hell yeah. What other ideas are there? I tend to get stuck on the heavy stuff. I'm going, how long is that going to take you? 101 years? So, I mean, even what was the one you had here that was so exciting? I don't know. I just kept making notes about all this stuff and then what if you, okay, see, this is the kind of questions I have, and I don't want to take up this whole time with this, of this thing, which everybody has to go, and so do I. So is there some way I can be in further touch with you or somebody?
Yeah, I would love to be in contact. If you make stuff, I would love to see it. I'm on.
Excuse me, Elijah.
Yes.
If you send me, I will send out to everybody a follow-up email. And if you could send me any links to particular things like Stephanie's asking for, I could include it in the email. And I will also include your email in the email I send to everybody so they can contact you, and I'll let them know that you're interested in what they're doing.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
I made a zine.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know if you can.
It's blurring out.
I need to unblurry my
blur your background, yeah.
Yeah. Now you'll see my messy room.
That's anyone who's hung around with us this long. I'm not worried about what's in their background.
I know. So yeah, and also it's backwards. So can you see me? I'm hiding. Peekaboo. I'm not looking at you.
Like, congratulations. That's wonderful. Ah.
I have all this like radical, queer, feminist stuff, and I thought, no, I want to be more abstract than that. And I think stuff like that, when you do stuff more abstract, it actually yells louder, and people digest it differently. So thank you. I got very inspired. The black and white, I love black and white. That's what really inspired me.
Yeah, if anyone makes a zine later today, a week from now, a year from now, I would love to see it. I'm very excited just to see what folks are making and just kind of see what's out in the world. In terms of local zine culture in the Seattle area, Push Pull is an art store in Ballard that has carries a lot of local zines. And I think that they do periodic different kinds of art workshops. Some of them might be zine related. There is an Olympia Zine Fest down in Olympia that I have tabled at before, and it's a really lovely environment. It's one of the bigger zine fests in Washington State. Short Run is not exclusively zines. It's like a comics festival. But a lot of folks do happen to bring zines there. And then for anyone who is down as far as Portland, there's a Portland Zine Symposium, which I tabled there before COVID. And a lot of the Zine Symposium or Olympia Zine Fest will also have workshops as part of their festival programming. And I think there's also I know there's a big Zine Fest in Los Angeles. I'm sure there's other stuff in California. And if I become aware of more, I will definitely send it to Barry to share with folks. It's again, zines live in this kind of weird twilight world. They can be very online, but they can also be very offline and hard to find. But I'd love to stay in touch. I would love to see what folks are making. And if anyone has questions, after today, again, there's no expiration date. I'm very happy just to answer them, as best I can and help either help troubleshoot or just be an enthusiastic cheerleader, and see what everyone is making.
Okay, well,
Thank
thank
you.
you very much, Elijah. A couple people had to lock off, but they expressed their thanks. Judith expressed something in the chat, which I forwarded to you. And we thank you all for coming, and I'm sure that Elijah will be glad to hear more from you. The information, I think you put the email and stuff in the chat, but I will include that information in an email I'll send out to you. In a couple days, I'll give Eli a chance to send me some more information to include in it.
Right, and that'll be good for
We're
the
also
folks who
going
had
to
to
have
go
this
early.
video available on the Seattle Storytellers Guild YouTube channel, and I'll have the information on where that is in the email as well. So you'll get a chance to view it again or share it with friends. Thank you, Eli.
Thank you so much, Barry, for organizing and hosting, and huge thanks to the Seattle Storytellers Guild for making this possible. And thank you to all of you for coming. This has been really lovely. And what a treat to see some familiar faces and to meet
Let's
some
give
new
him a
folks.
good mute applause. Thank you very much, and have a very pleasant afternoon.